Hey, what's going on, guys? The Horror Man back ranking all 11 canon movies in the Amityville franchise. There are countless films with Amityville in the title, but not all of them are canon. If we were to include all of them, this would be a very long video. It turns out, however, that there are only 11 Amityville movies that are canon to the franchise. That's still a lot, but not nearly as many as one might imagine, based on all of the Amityville titled flicks. In this video, I will only be ranking the 11 canon Amityville movies. Like with all of my other rankings, I'll start with my least favorite and work my way to my favorite. Because there are 11, I won't spend too much time talking about each. I base my decisions on criteria such as nostalgia, rewatchability, and overall enjoyment. This is just my personal opinion, and you don't have to agree or even understand. Please be sure to check out Jason's video as well to see how his ranking compares to mine. So, here we go. This is Amityville Ranked. First up, in last place, or 11th place, which might be a surprise to some, I have the original, The Amityville Horror. Many consider it a classic, and I do too. I'm just not a huge fan, to be honest. I like James Brolin and Margot Kidder. My wife actually is a big fan of this movie, but I've personally always found it a bit too slow. The tagline is, "For God's sake, get out." But when I'm watching it, I think, for God's sake, end. All jokes aside, I don't hate the Amityville Horror, but I definitely don't love it either. So the original is in last place. In 10th place is Amityville 3D, also known as Amityville 3: The Demon. Rewatching this for Franchise Frenzy last year, I found that I actually enjoyed this more than I had remembered. It's still not a favorite, clearly, but I had fun with it. I believe the last time I ranked the Amityville movies, which was a long time ago, Amityville 3D was in last place. So, after my most recent rewatch, it moves up a spot to second to last. Number 10. Coming in at number 9 is Amityville: A New Generation, which is Amityville 7. This is the sequel about the cursed mirror. Here's the thing, full disclosure, I know I like this one, but for some reason I forget so much about it after watching it. I do know that this one has a pretty great cast. David Naughton, Richard Roundtree, Terry O'Quinn, and Lynn Shay. If it wasn't so forgettable, it would probably be higher in my ranking. But for now, it's number 9. Coming in at number 8 is The Amityville Curse, or Amityville 5. This was the first straight-to-video Amityville movie, with the first 3 being released theatrically, the 4th film being a TV movie, and then this one straight to VHS. Ironically, it was lost on VHS here in the US for a long time. It was only a few years back that it first got a Blu-ray release. The Amityville Curse stars Kim Coates, who also plays Tig in Sons of Anarchy. I'm a huge fan of that show, so it was cool seeing him in this. Regardless, I've always been a fan of The Amityville Curse, and it's number 8 in my ranking. In at number 7 is Amityville 8, or Amityville Dollhouse. When it comes to all of the cursed objects in the Amityville sequels, this one has a clever storyline. It's literally a dollhouse version of the haunted Amityville house. This is one I wish I could rank higher, but I like the next one ever so slightly more. And by next one, I actually mean the next one, by release order. The Amityville Horror remake comes in at number 6, and this is the 9th movie in the franchise. Obviously, this is a remake I prefer to the original. I remember at the time thinking Ryan Reynolds might be a bad casting choice. I had only ever seen him in comedies prior to this. But then he defied all expectations, I think for many of us. He was fantastic, and this remake is really good. There are some great jump scares, and with the exception of some questionable CGI, this holds up well. The Amityville Horror remake comes in at number 6. It's about time we're into the top 5 with Amityville 1992. It's About Time, or Amityville 6. This one, unlike A New Beginning, which came after it, is memorable for me. It's About Time was directed by Tony Randall, who also directed Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Despite the 4-year difference between the two films, they sort of have the same feel. The title should tell you, this is the Amityville movie about the cursed clock. This VHS cover art is a dead giveaway as well. As a huge fan of Survivor, it's also really cool seeing Jonathan Penner in this. I've seen him in other things too, but I had forgotten how big of a role he has in Amityville 1992. Part 6 is number 5 in my ranking. In 4th place is the 10th film canonically in the Amityville franchise. Amityville: The Awakening. This is the meta movie of the series. Jason is a big fan of this one, and for the longest time, he kept recommending this to me. I had gotten the DVD years ago and then found this Blu-ray years after. Still, I had never watched The Awakening until last year for the first time during Franchise Frenzy. Not surprisingly, Jason was right, and I loved this. It stars Jennifer Jason Leigh, Bella Thorne, Jennifer Morrison, and Kurtwood Smith. I love the meta aspect, and it's an awesome modern-day take on Amityville. The Awakening is in 4th place for me. Into the top 3 now, and this is where it really gets tough, because I want to rank all 3 of these at number 1. But in 3rd place is The Amityville Murders. This is the last Amityville film released canonically, but it's a prequel to the original. I really wanted to rank this higher, even though 3rd place is very high. This one was absolutely the biggest surprise, watching it for the first time, again, during Franchise Frenzy. I never expected it to be as good as it is, but unfortunately, decisions had to be made, and I just have more nostalgia for the 2 that remain. Although it's a worthy number 1, The Amityville Murders comes in at number 3. In 2nd place is what is truthfully my most nostalgic Amityville movie, Amityville 4, The Evil Escapes. The Evil Escapes was a made-for-TV Amityville sequel, starring Patty Duke. This is the one with the creepy-looking haunted lamp. It wasn't the lamp that stuck out most to me, though. The thing I always remember about this movie is the garbage disposal scene. I saw this as a kid and never, ever forgot it. It had actually been years since I had revisited it when we watched it again for Franchise Frenzy. This was one of those movies I kept putting off because of the fond memories I had of it. I was worried that rewatching it wouldn't live up to how I remembered it. It turns out it was the opposite. I loved it more than ever. Of course, my nostalgia played a huge role in that, but that's one of the big criteria for these rankings. I love Amityville 4, The Evil Escapes. And realistically, it probably should be my number 1, but I've saved that spot for something else. And that is obviously, if you're keeping track, Amityville 2, The Possession, my #1 favorite movie in the Amityville franchise. This is also a prequel to the original, so it's funny that I have 2 prequels in my top 3. Objectively, this is probably the best of all the Amityville films, and I know most people agree with that. This tends to be a lot of people's favorite. I love the story, I love the cast, Burt Young, and especially Diane Franklin. I love the Diane Franklin nude scene, and how controversial this sequel is. Speaking of which, you can count on Jason and I covering this movie for Controversial View at some point. We gave the original a controversial view last year, so we wanted to space them out. I'd say Amityville 2, The Possession, is the most controversial of all, though. Not only that, but it's my #1 favorite movie in the Amityville franchise. So there you have it, guys. My ranking of all 11 canon movies in the Amityville franchise. What do you think? How would you rank these films? Comment below and let me know. Don't forget to check out Jason's video as well to see how he has Amityville Ranked. Which franchise will we rank next? Check back soon to find out. Until then, remember, physical media matters. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that thumbs up and be kind. Subscribe.